What's going on, you guys? Of course, we're just talking about the recent firings of Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce. Just get this off my chest. Yeah, this was a disaster 2024 season, and I don't think there's too much to say other than Antonio Pierce regressed with his coaching decisions and some of the ways of getting guys ready. It just shows you're not qualified to be a head coach sometimes when you got to work your way up the ranks. There's a lot that goes on to being a head coach and things and responsibilities you don't realize you have until it's too late. So, yeah, there's not much to say other than he was in over his head, and some of those decisions he made in the game were just way too costly. Bad clock management, all those little things added up. And as for Tom Telesco, the Raiders just have another plan. Usually, a general manager doesn't go one and done, except when you're the Browns, where the Browns had a situation like that for 3 consecutive years of different GM and different head coach. But this one makes a lot of sense when you factor in that Tom Brady did not become an owner or a part-time owner until mid-season. It took like a year for the owners to approve the transaction. I know, was it Brady owns 5%, his business partner owns another 5, and then Richard Seymour owns like 0.5 of the team. So that transaction happens, and now Brady has a little more influence. And there is the saying, when you take over, you want your own people. And it's kind of one of those things that's always scary if you're working and you find out there's a new owner in town or a new people on top. You just hope that when you're an inherited person, you get to stay. And as this is the thing in sports or even in just in the workforce, they say it's a business. And I think from a business standpoint, there's nothing that Telesco could have really done. I mean, he was hired before Tom Brady got the ownership stake. Now they just want to go hire their own people, and that's a very normal thing when you're an owner in sports. You get to hire people that you trust or people that you've worked with, that you've interviewed, and all that. Usually you do that. That's just the normal thing in sports when you keep trying to make changes. Now, there's a lot of conspiracies and a lot of things out there. Maybe this is a way to make room for the head coach that wants to be the GM too. Sometimes you have to entice someone and sweeten the pot, give them more power. It's not always about the money when you make these guys the head coach. Some of them have more influence over the roster decisions and so on. So Ben Johnson, I believe, is going to be interviewed, but that you can't just wish for that and hope. I mean, there's a lot of teams going for him, who is the Lions' offensive coordinator. There's just a lot of choices and a lot of names and a lot of people out there. I think Liam Cohen, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that would be an interesting dark horse candidate who I would be interested in if there was a guy. Took Baker Mayfield around, and he had a pretty fine year with the Bucs. I think that also helps is when you hire a young offensive mind. That's the trend. You want to hire a young offensive mind who's in it with the times of the game today. Preferably, you also want to hire someone who has ties to Sean McVay. That's the other trend. I think Sean McVay really brought the young head coach trend to keep going, of guys who are in their 30s when they're hired and hope they're ready to be a head coach. Or it's young and trendy. So I can tell you that Cohen does have ties to Sean McVay. He did coach on the Rams for 1 year. So that would be the thing I'd probably go for if I was doing this. But what I do know is I don't want to see Bill Belichick, and I don't want to see John Gruden. Two guys who are washed up. You don't want to see any washed up names doing this. I know Belichick is at North Carolina right now or something, but there's just a lot of weird rumors and all that crap going on that I don't want to see a washed-up head coach. That's the only thing I know for sure. As for the Raiders right now, at least they got their first-round draft pick correct. That's the only thing that this team got right in the last year is Brock Bowers being one of the better talents on the board and available. He could be an all-time great if things continue with the way he had for a rookie season and being a consistent guy. It's nice to have a weapon, and it's good to know, even at number 6 overall, I still think the Raiders can draft a talent that can help them right on day one. So I'm not really worried about tanking and having the first overall pick. That doesn't always guarantee anything. But yeah, as for this team, and there's just a lot of holes. You got to take the best player available. The only thing about being in NFL, compared to college where you need a head coach sooner than later, the NFL, you can take your sweet time. If the Detroit Lions, for some reason, go to the Super Bowl and they have Ben Johnson lined up, they can wait it out and just wait till Ben Johnson is available whether they win the Super Bowl or they're eliminated, one or the other. You can wait this out. you don't have to rush your head coach hiring when you're doing this. So, yes, you got to talk to people. Whatever you talk to, you don't really look at the interview list the first time. Some of that stuff is to satisfy the Rooney Rule anyway. I think the Raiders already satisfied the Rooney Rule with Aaron Glenn and someone else. And so that stuff's the first wave of interviews is whatever. It's the second time a coach gets an interview is when things get very, very interesting and dicey. But yeah, I don't know. The last time the Raiders tried to make a head coach the GM or have GM powers, it's backfired. The last couple times it was John Gruden and Josh McDaniels. Both guys were basically hired to be the GM because Mark Davis was a little lazy to go hire an actual GM. Now it's kind of like, all right, they got new influence with Tom Brady there. He's going to have a say and probably want to go hire someone of his connection, and maybe they'll sweeten the pot for the head coach. There's just all these things you can say and do, and I don't know what's going on, but I know an executive does not go one and done unless you have a plan, and it's pretty clear in this case. Telesco could have done nothing better or worse with what he was given in 1 year. So we don't know the plans ahead. What would you do? What would you coach? Who would you have? The only thing I'll say just about this past year and Antonio Pierce is that the writing was on the wall the moment Luke Getsy was hired. There's just names that automatically turn me off, and Luke Getsy was one of them. Getsy was one of the worst names you could get for offensive coordinator. He had a track record with the Chicago Bears. You already knew what was coming. So, yes, I have been pretty bored. I did not waste my time and resources on this season. I feel good in a lot of ways. I was doing other things on Sunday instead of watching football because, hey, when you're losing like that and you're boring and people already know what you are, there's nothing worth paying attention to. That Panthers loss, when they lost to the Panthers, I'm like, yeah, season's over. I'm already thinking season's over after that game. So, I don't know about you, but that's how the season played out. Let me know what y'all think. I mean, this is pretty boring to me. I'm just waiting for the next hire, and I'll wait to see what happens. But I'll do a State of the Raiders thing until told otherwise. We'll see you guys next time.